Welcome to qnawire.
Okay, for this problem, we're trying to evaluate how likely it is that 45 pizzas were delivered per day. And what we're going to do is we're going to break it down into a few steps and analyze the information we have in the table. So we'll put this here as a question mark. Gotta remember to answer it at the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to find on average, we're going to find the mean of the number of pizzas delivered. Okay, so that symbol there is what we use for the mean. Sometimes we call it the expected value. So what we're going to do is we're going to take each value that we have times the probability that that occurs. We're going to add them up, and that'll give us on average what we have. So we've been told that 35 pizzas per day happens about 0.1 or 10% of the time. 36 happens about 0.2. 37 happens about 0.3 or 30% of the time. And a nice little check is that all these probability numbers set up to 1 or 100%. So we're breaking it into parts here. So, and what I like about statistics, it kind of makes sense. So you see those numbers going from like 35 to 39. If I average these all out, you get a number that makes sense. That's called the mean. Okay, so everything we see in red here is called the mean. It's got the nice fancy symbol, but that's what it is. The mean is 37.1 based on the information that we have. Then we have a much longer formula for the variance that tells us how much the answers vary, because you can see there's different on different days, but it's called a variance in stats. And what we do is almost the same thing. We take a big summation of the squares of the numbers and the probabilities of the numbers. And we subtract what the mean value was. In fact, at the end, we're going to subtract that number into there. But notice that it's squared. So this is kind of long, so hang there with me for a second. So we're going to do 35 squared times 0.1 plus 36 squared. And once you learn the meaning of this later on, there are calculator techniques that'll do that for you. But when you're learning the statistics, it's good to go through the process of learning these steps. And the thing about the variance is that we won't kind of have a general idea of it's going to be a relatively low number because it's telling us how much it varies above and below the mean, but it's a squared number, so we can't use it. But statisticians use the variance all the time when they're analyzing data. But we're going to take this calculation of all and sum them all up. This is closing that there. So all these guys. And then again, like I said, then I'm going to take that number and take away. I'm going to make it red because I'm going back to this here. So I'm going to take away the mu. I'm going to take away the 37.1 squared. So when you do all that calculation together, the overall variance is 1.29. Write that as about 1.3. Okay, so statisticians use variance a lot. Now, it doesn't mean pizzas necessarily, but we do know that this is going to be the number. Okay, so then to find the last thing, which we call the standard deviation, again, another really important concept in statistics, is we're going to find the standard deviation. And all that is simply it's the square root of the variation. Important concept to know. Okay, so I'm just going to take that number there that we found. So I'm going to take this number right here. That's the standard deviation. That's from the variance. And I'm going to take this down here, and I'm just going to square root it. So the square root of 1.29 equals to 1.1. Okay, so the standard deviation is 1.1. Now, putting this all together, the whole purpose of this original problem, we're trying to see what happens based on our table of values. So we were told that from the information we had, that we have about 37.1 happening on average, on mean of 37.1. And then I'm going to take that number, the mean, and say that it kind of the typical error, it goes up or down about 1.1. So I'm going to add 1.1 to that. And we see that that number is 38.2, which is not nearly close to the 45 pizzas per day. So in the end, we have to say no, it's not likely. Okay. So in the end, we're going to say no. It's not likely that we had 45 pizzas when we found out the information about the mean and the standard deviation.